Thank you.
Hello, Ann. I met you 2 years ago at the same conference, by the way.
Nice to see you again.
I'm Courtney from Knoxville, Tennessee. This is actually a two-parter question. And the first question is probably wondering by 99% of the whole people here. Are you running next year for the presidency? And if not, why not?
Why, thank you.
And then part two is, are you taking interns for what you do?
Am I taking what?
Interns.
Oh, interns?
Yeah.
Yeah, if any of you are really good at computers, I have a few computer things I want to work out, but I am so looking for a computer jock right now, so I'm glad you asked that. Apparently, the younger you go, the better they know computers. No, I will not be running for president. I apparently lack something politicians need, diplomacy. And there were 2 times when Bush was president, and I realized I could never be a politician. Once was, right after 9/11, and subsequently, when he's always going around talking about Islam, a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace. And as you know, I use the phrase frequently too, but only sarcastically. And I understand why Bush had to say that. We do have Muslim allies. We're not going to take on the whole Islamic world. There haven't been that many homegrown attacks. But I don't think I could say it without dripping with sarcasm. And the second time was when they hung Bill Clinton's portrait at the White House and Bush had to say nice things about Clinton. No, I could not do that.
Well, thank
and
you.
just as a rule of thumb, I don't think you can run someone for president who hasn't run for office, who hasn't held elective office. I think it's got to be a governor or a senator, just to save you all a lot of time and heartbreak that I have been through myself. You can't run from the House, as much as I love Michelle Bachmann and Thaddeus McCotter. You can't run without holding elective office, as much as I love Herman Cain. And this is coming from someone who has supported in the past for president Pat Buchanan, Steve Forbes, Alan Keyes, and Duncan Hunter. At some point, you learn your lesson. Preferably a governor, probably a senator, but right now, it's going to be Romney unless Chris Christie jumps in, I say. And, yeah, frankly, all of them are better than John McCain. It's not that bad.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Grant from the Young Britons Foundation. I was just thinking during your speech, what's the hardest question I could ask you? What is your favorite Obama policy?
Oh, I can name several, but they're all continuing the Bush policies, continuing the Bush tax cuts, keeping Guantanamo open. I support his position on gay marriage. We're both against it.
What if you could repeal one bill?
If I could...
One Obama bill.
Obamacare. Okay. I think all of America is dying to repeal Obamacare.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that accent, you should hope we repeal Obamacare if you want to get good health care someplace in the world.
Hey, how's it going there? My name's Chase Salazar, and I go to the University of Oregon. Go Ducks!
Wow, Oregon has a strong presence here tonight. Who knew?
I'm actually going to be an incoming freshman, and I'm going into biochemistry, and I'd like to pursue a course into pre-med, and obviously I have some concerns about Obamacare.
Right.
If it does come into effect and there isn't a repeal, what catastrophe do you think might happen?
Well, I don't want to tell you this because I would like smart kids to keep becoming doctors, but I don't think it'll happen. Democrats are always complaining about how much doctors get paid, after graduating at the top of their class, working constantly through college, going to law school, spending 10 years in internships where you will never go out and see your friends, by the way. Oh, no, they're paid too much. No, doctors are paid the least well of any profession in America. How about comparing a doctor to screw-off John Edwards who just comes in and, I'll take $300 million. How has he made society better? Trial lawyers come in and wreck everything. But of course, we couldn't include tort reform with Obamacare. If it's not repealed, and I think it will be repealed, becoming a doctor will be like becoming a postman. And I don't mean to diss postmen, but I think most people look at a doctor. I certainly did. My roommate was a pre-med and is a surgeon now. And when I was, dancing on tables and drinking in bars, she was in the chem lab every Friday and Saturday night. And the idea that she doesn't have John Edwards' wealth and John Edwards has it, I mean, it shows you there's something wrong with this system. But the reason American doctors are paid, although I think they're paid way too little, are paid less than European doctors is it's not that impressive a job in Europe. It's like being a postman. You're working for the government.
And do you think that the rates of kids going into medical school will drop significantly because the pay decreases?
And that it won't be as hard to get in. It won't be our top students as it is now. It's a very, very bad thing. We've got to repeal Obamacare.
Amen. Thank you.
And I hope you become very wealthy as a doctor.
Hi, I'm Christine Ursell. I go to Providence College. I saw your clip from the Father Albert show like a few weeks ago.
Oh, I was wondering if anybody saw that.
And pretty much the entire audience and possibly the host wanted to kill you at some point.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your composure, and do you have any advice for like students like me when in a similar situation in a classroom when everyone hates me?
Oh, that I take with relish. Enjoy it. It's funny because I was making a conscious decision in that case, and sometimes I do. Because they were, I don't know if any of you saw this, it was all some of the stupidest people you've ever seen, all single mothers. It was like I was sitting with an audience of Jerry Springers, standing up haranguing me, and man, were they stupid. And I could have been meaner, but I just thought, for viewers at home, sometimes it's better if you just absorb the attacks, because if you get them back, well, then people who may not already be on your side aren't necessarily on your side. But I did walk out thinking, oh, screw it, I wish I had attacked back. Though I've gotten a lot of emails since then from people very sympathetic, so maybe it works. But, I mean, I suppose I'd say, at least in my case and probably many of your cases, we're Christians, we love to be attacked. Christ warned us, and when the world hates you, remember it hated me first. And it will happen, and I have noticed that it is on the moral issues you will be attacked more viciously than anything else. It was a debate about single motherhood. I could have been talking about tax rates. Wouldn't get attacked like that.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Courtney O'Brien from Allegheny College in Pennsylvania. And I was going to ask a more serious question, but I realized I want to know the answer to this one instead. I know there's lots of liberals in Hollywood that really should not be talking about politics. I know irritate me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. And I was just wondering if there was one liberal in particular that irritates you the most and that you most enjoy, like, criticizing.
Well, I was brokenhearted when Keith Olbermann was fired. I'm still recovering from that. He's dead to me now. He's on some podcast. I'm not going to attack him now. It's like attacking your next door neighbor. And then he said, so he was he's far from Hollywood. Liberals, I like it. And yes, and also it was heartbreaking when Teddy Kennedy died. I think enough time has passed that I can bring him back. Very, very sorry. I was just telling them when we were coming over to this speech, I was writing my speech this week thinking, I am so morose that Anthony Weiner is gone, and the debt ceiling is the topic of the current news. Really, all I want to do is talk about Anthony Weiner. But I thought that would seem a little stale. Alas, please come back, Anthony Weiner. And Hollywood people, no, I do enjoy having them talk.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Claire, and I go to the University of Wisconsin at Madison. And
wow, that's like Boulder.
Yeah. I was actually wondering if you could maybe touch on the groupthink mentality of the union protests in Wisconsin and Ohio this year.
When I wrote this book, once I figured out liberals and their mob characteristics, I couldn't stop writing. And I ended up actually cutting about half the book. And originally I had a chapter on the public sector unions. And I mean, if I could just say, it's just madness to have a government union. You need a union when there's management on the other side. If you don't have a boss on the other side of the bargaining table saying, I want you to work longer for less money, you don't need a union. And you have exactly the opposite of that when it comes to government employees, because the Democrats have this parasitic relationship with them where the Democrats will get ever more fabulous pensions and health care benefits and retirements and work rules for people who work for the government, and in return the government unions make sure the Democrats get reelected. But the Democrats aren't spending their money. The government isn't turning a profit. As we know, they're all losing money. The taxpayers are paying for it, which is why FDR and George Meany said there should never be a union for government employment. But that really, I think, is the big division now. And no, you see all of the mob techniques, the slogans, the chanting, and not only the psychological mob techniques, but branching out into actual dangerous mobs, including, I have a section in my book on the attacks on people's private individuals' homes. You can never, ever imagine a conservative doing that. Frankly, you can never imagine a conservative coming up with a slogan. We keep trying to. We're just not good at slogans. It's not our thing. We want to stand with, a chart and a pointer and use logic and facts. That's what conservatives do. One of my friends told me after the 2000 election, when you were all 5, Gore tried to steal it. You've probably read about that in the history books. Oh, no, you haven't. You went to public schools. Gore's tried to steal the election, and so conservatives were staging protests. Anyway, she goes to one of these protests, and she used to be on the left, and all she could talk about was how pathetic the conservatives were at protesting, and they all go out with their little handmade signs, and there's a guy with a bullhorn, but he doesn't get the idea of a chant and how a chant is supposed to be responded to. So he'd be saying into the bullhorn, "We oppose the recount because it violates the Constitution, and we should," and he's going on, and everybody's waiting to hear what they're supposed to chant back to. We just can't do it. But they take to it like fish to water.